Prophets of the Lord, avoid the snare, and if you've been snared, get out of the trap. And it is a snare oftentimes set by professing Christians, where when something major happens, they'll be among the first to say, how's it now the prophets prophesied this? And the fact is, they do not know if anyone prophesied about the event. Because sometimes a person, by the Spirit of God, will prophesy about a major event, and it doesn't get major coverage. Not before, and sometimes not even afterwards, even to the point where those individuals that prophesy the stuff may feel despondent about it. It may make them wonder why they're even in prophetic ministry at all, if, in a sense, no one's going to listen. There are also times when the Lord doesn't call a person to make a public proclamation, but to speak to certain people in positions of authority, and it's up to them to listen and to take the appropriate actions. So avoid the snare of being made to feel as if you have to know everything. Only God knows everything. In addition, when the Lord called Ezekiel as a watchman, as we see in Ezekiel chapter 3, he told the prophet that if he didn't warn people, then blood would be upon on his hands. So if the Lord gave you a warning for others, and he warned them, and whether they listened or not, the responsibility is upon them. Also, if something major happened and the Lord didn't tell you about it, it is not your responsibility regarding the outcome. Because if the Lord wanted you to know and for you to take action, he would have told you about it. And prophets, again, do not know everything. Abraham, in accordance with Genesis 20 verse 7, is the first person the Lord called a prophet. And even though Abraham was the Lord's prophet, in Genesis 15, the Lord told Abram, as he was named at the time, that he was going to bless him with a son from his own loins. But Abraham didn't know that conceiving a child with Hagar, that was not the fulfillment of the promise the Lord had made to him. In addition, Abraham had no idea about the consequences that linger to this day regarding what that decision would be like. David was a prophet. He had no idea what was going to happen to his daughter Tamar in 2 Samuel 13. Likewise, Jacob, Israel, a prolific dreamer, he had no idea what was going to happen to his daughter Dinah. And in 2 Kings 4, Elisha had prophesied to the Shunammite woman that she was going to give birth to a son the following year. When that young man passed away later on, the Shunammite woman went to Elisha with the hopes that he, by the Spirit of God, could raise that child from the dead. But when she was coming towards him, Elisha could discern that she was distressed. Gehazi, Elisha's servant, was even pushing her away. And one thing that Elisha said is that basically what was going on, the Lord had hid it from him. So there are some things the Lord may tell you. You proclaimed it and people didn't take the appropriate actions. You may have done what the Lord said, and it didn't gain major traction, either around the time of the prophecy or after its fulfillment. So do not let anyone ensnare you by making you feel as if you have to be in the know. You have to make commentary or prophecy about every major event, as if you're continually trying to prove your relevance. If God has called you, he's the one that's going to use you as appropriate. So avoid the snare of trying to be a prophet to the nations, the world's premier prophet, the nation's premier prophet, or whatever the case may be, and simply rest and let the Lord use you how and when he wants you to be used. In addition, going back to the book of Ezekiel, when the Lord called Ezekiel, he told him that he was going to send him to the nation of Israel. And despite there being no language barrier, the children of Israel would not listen to him. But at least they'd know that a prophet had been among them. Unfortunately, in today's day, there are many people, because of their hardened heart, despite being professing Christians, they can even discern when a prophet had been among them. It's kind of like during the time of Jesus. There are individuals questioning if Jesus was the Son of God. The devils didn't have to question if Jesus was the Son of God. The woman at the well, when she heard Jesus say one thing, at least she discerned that he was a prophet. Same thing with Elisha in 2 Kings 4. Whenever he passed through Shunem, the Shunammite woman discerned that he was a holy man of God. There are some people today who cannot even discern good from evil. And they'll be among those who set a snare to try to say, how is it no one prophesied this? Do not fall for the snare. And ultimately, even those who may do such things, they may have motives that they think are right, but it becomes a snare of the devil. And do not get trapped. What is written about in Jeremiah about the snare of the fowler. I pray this message blesses you. And again, as a prophet, you don't need to know everything. God is not going to tell you everything. And there are some things he may withhold from you, just to remind you that he, the Lord, is God, and you have to rely on him. And what's you prophesy? You prophesy in part because you only know in part. I pray this message blesses you. God bless you, and Jesus Christ is Lord. Oh, one more thing. Like the events in Luke 11, verses 53 through 54, there were people who followed Jesus just to simply catch something errant coming out of his mouth so they could accuse him. And likewise, there are some people who do not believe that the Lord has prophets today, and they make it their mission, their ministry, to try to disprove any person as being a potential prophet of the Lord. So they want to catch you in that snare because they're only looking for one thing so they can label you or mislabel you as being a false prophet. You could prophesy 10 things that comes to pass, but the moment you make one mistake, that's what they want to use to hang you by the tongue, as there's a book out there, it's called. So practice discipline. Speak when Lord commands you to speak. And if he sovereignly decides not to share something with you and you didn't know, it's okay to say, I didn't know. It doesn't make you any less valuable to the Lord. So watch out for the snares of your professing brothers in Christ, and ultimately the snare of the evil one. Again, God bless you, and Jesus Christ is Lord.